I wanted to hear more about what it was like for Peach Pit when you guys were first starting to do shows, and what was your first live performance like?
Oh, our first live performance was, there's like two really early ones that I can remember. The first one we played at like a youth group like talent show. So it was like a young adult sort of a youth group, and we just heard about this talent show through some friends, and that was our first ever show. And we wore like suits, and it kind of had like a sort of like Angus Young AC/DC thing, like shorts and suits kind of thing going. And I think we played 3 songs that we had written at the time. And yeah, I was so stoked about the show. I was like, this is electric. I thought we killed it. And then the other early one I can remember is playing a house show. And I think it was like Valentine's Day. And it was like in a living room, and we were playing. There was a few bands playing, and our drummer Mikey, he was playing in a different band at the time. His band was playing with us too. And yeah, I remember there was probably like 15 people in there, but it felt like so packed. And I think I was so excited about the show that like we were like out in the alleyway afterwards, like, you know, talking about how the show went afterwards. And I think I like started tearing up because I was like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And then from there, Vancouver, when we were first starting our band, there was this kind of DIY production company that was run by a girl who I think was like 15 years old. She was like super young in high school. So I was maybe 5 years older than her. I was like 19 or 20. And she had this thing called Trash City Productions. And they would have different shows all around Vancouver at different DIY places. And I remember I sent her an email and was like, yo, what's up? My name's Neil, blah, 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 blah. Like, I play in a band called Peach Pit. Like, can we play a show? And she got back to me right away and was like, oh, I've heard of you guys. Like, you can play a show. And that was another, like, really big memory for me of, like, letting her being like, you guys are welcome into the DIY scene. And I just thought it was so cool. I wanted to be a part of it.
That's cool.
So it was really important to us when we first started playing, especially kind of, playing for younger audiences, teenagers and stuff who are the best audiences, I would say. You know, when you're in high school, music is like the coolest, most important thing for a lot of people. So tends to be the best crowds, I would say. Yeah, younger crowds for sure. Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Were you like a big audience member in the scene at the time, or you mean?
No, not even. I kind of was a bit, but so right around that same time, I started working at this like outdoor equipment store, and I was stocking shelves at night, and it was mostly kind of like, you know, nerdy, outdoorsy people working at the store, and I'm not that outdoorsy of a guy. But there was this one other dude who was working there, this British guy who was like into skateboarding and music and stuff, and we became buddies, and he kind of showed me that there was this like DIY music scene in Vancouver. I didn't really even know about it, and so I started going to shows with him, and then kind of that's when I realized like, oh, this is the kind of the way to break into music is through this scene of all these different cool bands. So yeah, I was definitely going to shows when I first started, but I really just wanted to be on stage. I didn't want to be at the shows anymore. Yeah.
What was it like kind of getting to the point where you were getting ready to record? Like, some people here, they'll do a lot of like covers with their band, and they're like, oh, maybe we want to write our own stuff. So then they sort of have very sort of just thrown together recording studios in like their basements or living rooms, and then eventually they like find a studio they can record in. So it's very much like slowly build up with what you have. How is it for you guys?
Well, I actually had been in a band before Peach Pit. I was in a band, it was a folk band called Dogwood and Dahlia, and it was me and my friend Sydney. We were playing like acoustic guitar and banjo. It was kind of, when I was like 16, 17, was kind of the peak of like Mumford & Sons being really, really awesome and cool. And so that's what we wanted to do, was that kind of music. And so I had kind of had these like maybe growing pains a little bit before Peach Pit of like working with like some random dude who was like, oh, I'll record your band for free, or this, that, or the other thing, you know? So by the time I was in Peach Pit, I kind of had figured out sort of how I wanted to do things. And one thing I was like really certain on was that we needed to have really good recordings right away. And yeah, we had our friend Harley who had just finished recording studio, and we could get studio time for a good deal at the studio he was working at, and I'd heard his recordings and they sounded really professional and good. So the first thing that we made right away, I think, for our age and for like the amount of money we had and stuff, actually was pretty decent. But yeah, it was kind of cool. Like for me, being in that band before, it was like learning how to tour for the first time, book shows for the first time, write music and make records for the first time. A lot of the kind of messy sort of growing pains about being in a band, I kind of had maybe figured out what I didn't want to do, sort of a thing. Even kind of in a similar way, the first time I was ever playing in bands, our shows were never very good because we didn't rehearse enough. And so when we started Peach Pit, my main goal was like, guys, we need to rehearse for like a year before we're ever going to play a show, because I was like, the first time we ever play a show, it needs to be good. Now, I don't know how good our actual first show was, but we were prepared, you know, we knew all the songs really well. And so, yeah, I'd say maybe to any young bands now, I'd just be like, dude, you just got to rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. That's like the most important thing that you got to do.
Did you see it as like a very long-term thing from the start then? Because a year for like a new band seems like such a daunting amount of time. Like,
I think I was dreaming of it being a long-term thing, and I didn't have any other real goals other than playing music and writing music, and so yeah, I really just wanted it to be a long-term thing. I feel like when you're first starting out, I wouldn't like tell people like, oh, I'm gonna be a musician. I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm playing in my band. I was kind of going to college at the time. I'm gonna become a teacher and stuff. But in my head, I was like, I'm not becoming a teacher. I'm gonna be a musician. And then once we started maybe making some money, then I was able to be like, yo, I'm a musician. Like, because you know, usually people kind of roll their eyes when you tell them like, oh, I'm in a band, I'm gonna make it or whatever. But you got to have that like kind of blind stupidity, a little bit of like, you know. Got to have some belief in yourself that doesn't really make any sense if you want to make it in the music business, I would say.
Yeah. Was there ever like a milestone you guys had of when we reach this point, then we're going to do it full time? Or was it kind of just, it felt right?
I think what happened when we started doing it full time was we just booked a tour, a big tour of like North America and Europe. Maybe it was just North America. But we booked a big tour and we quit our jobs, and then we just didn't have to get jobs afterwards. Like it's not like we had a lot of money or anything, but like we'd come home from tour, we would have made some money, and we'd make a bit of money from selling merch and records and stuff. And you know, we were still broke for a long time, but we were able to, we didn't have to get day jobs again. So I think that it was never really like, when this happens, we get to not work anymore. We just didn't have to go back to our day jobs yet. You know, you never know. Yeah. There's always a chance. But yeah, and then it's funny, like as far as like band milestones go, that like milestone kind of stuff, like they've become fond memories, but the goalposts just like keep moving and moving and moving. You never, like I remember when I was younger, I just like the thought of recording an album was like, oh my God, if I do that, that's awesome. But then you do that and then you're like, oh, if I could ever get on a record label. And then you get on one and then you want something else, you know, so.
What's your big want right now?
Right now, gosh, I don't know. I'm really happy right now. Everything in like as far as like our music careers is really going well. And what would I want? I don't know. Everything's good. I don't really want anything else. I'm happy. I just want to be able to keep playing music. That's all. I just don't want to ever have to do something else. I want to just have this be my job forever. Then I'll be happy.
Have you ever thought about doing, you said you were in a folk band. It's like a very different genre than you play now. Do you ever think about doing like an individual project where you can kind of get that?
No, I don't think so, because one, we do folk music in Peach Pit. Like we do have stripped down tunes and songs that still kind of scratch that itch for me. And I just like to me, I've never felt so fulfilled as making music with Chris and Pete and Mike and Dougal. And I would be so lost without those other guys. Like I know how to write a song with chords and lyrics on my guitar, but past that I don't really know how to do anything. And so the way we collaborate, it just we make way better music because I have those guys making music with me than if it was just myself. So yeah, I don't think I will. No.
So you guys have like a tour in May coming up. Is there any other big projects that you guys are working on?
What are we doing?
Isn't there an album?
Yeah, we have an album. We actually just finished it on Monday. It's all
congrats.
Done. Yeah, I'm really excited
cool.
about it. Yeah. It's a huge weight off my shoulders. It's been bogging me down. We tried to write and record it and have it done in the spring of last year, and we kind of failed, and it wasn't very good. And we had lots of songs that I just didn't think were very good. And so we moved the deadline to basically a year later, and we booked more studio time, and then we worked so hard just writing as many songs as we could, and yeah, it's a huge relief. It doesn't suck, so I'm excited about it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when's the come?
I think we haven't announced it or anything, but I think it'll be out sometime near the end of this year. So there'll be some music out later in the summer into the fall or something. But yeah, it literally just got finished a couple days ago. So yeah, I don't really know too much other than that, but yeah, it's exciting. It's really fun.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
What do you do when you have sort of that time where it's like, oh, we've done an album, we don't have to be making anything new, and then we don't have any tour coming up? What do you do?
To be honest, actually, I feel like this time around, I'm really like, I don't know about you guys, but like, I am a good procrastinator. I'm really good at just putting stuff off until the last minute. I think maybe for some people, including myself, like it's kind of like part of the process of like, I feel like maybe I work better under pressure, but it's really tiring. So I think actually when I get home, I'm just going to start trying to write another album, because it's just so hectic when you have like all these deadlines on you, and it's very stressful for me. So I'm going to try to be way more prepared. So I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to keep writing songs. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you ever feel like when you're writing songs, they tend to be pretty personal? So when most of your time is taken up by writing an album or going on tour, do you feel like it's hard to live life and like have those emotions?
That's a good question. Yeah, it is maybe sometimes hard, because I think, in order to write songs that mean something and are important to you, you kind of do have to live life and like go and experience things and have stuff to write about, but yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty lazy, so it's not that hard for me not to work on stuff, to be honest. So that's not my main issue, but yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah. Is there any life experience that you haven't had yet, but you're like, that would be great material once I experience it?
Oh gosh.
Or if you ever experience it?
Gosh, yeah, probably. I'm gonna get married this year.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah. I just got engaged to my girlfriend a few months ago, so that's a big life thing for me for sure. And I think, I like, for a long time, I didn't write that many like love songs that were like happy love songs. They were always really sad because they were about like breakups and stuff. So now I'm writing more like love songs now. I think, I don't know, maybe not yet, but in a few years I want to have my own kids. So I think that'll probably give me fuel for the fire. But yeah, I don't know. I like to write about all sorts of different things. It doesn't have to be like a big life event, honestly. Yeah, I like to write about just like any random thing. If something's like funny to me, or like somebody says something in a weird way that I haven't heard before, I'll like write it down a lot, and then that could turn into a song. So it could be really something really minuscule, actually. Yeah.
That's cool. Do you have any like themes that are bouncing in your head right now?
Yeah, actually, I think right now I've been thinking about it a lot. I don't know. I feel very fortunate, and like, over the past 10 years of my life have been really awesome. I've gotten to travel the world with my band, make all kinds of music. I'm in a really happy place with my friendships and my relationships and stuff. And so I've been thinking about a lot about how like things are gonna come crashing down someday, because everyone in my family is healthy, and everyone's alive and stuff. And so I think that's been on my mind recently. I just turned 31, and the rest of the band's turning 30 this year. And so it's like, as we're getting older, I start to think about like, damn, like this is not going to be the good old days forever. It's something that's going to change. That's been on my mind. Yeah. It's kind of depressing, but
it's depressing, but also
it'll make a good song, maybe.
Yeah. The most depressing things make good songs.
Yeah, good songs, exactly.
What advice would you have for like new bands that are trying to get a feel for things and seeing if they want to like...
I would say the most important piece of advice that I ever heard was, do you know who Nardwar is?
Yeah.
Nardwar the Human Serviette?
Yeah.
So Nardwar, for people that don't know, he's an interviewer. He's the best interviewer in the world, I would say. He's from Vancouver, and he did a TED Talk, and the whole theme of the TED Talk was do it yourself. He just was talking about how he kind of got his foot in the door with interviewing bands, and the only way that you kind of can do anything is just by going out and do it. So it might be scary to ask somebody to start a band with you. It might be scary to contact a venue and be like, hey, can I play a show? You know, there's all these different things that like seem maybe a little bit out of reach, and then you do them one time and you're like, oh, I just did that. I can do that. That's the most important piece of advice is just like go out and do it. If you want to start a band, go and do it. If you want to play a show, you just got to do it. I mean, there's not some sort of like secret hack to any of it. You just got to send an email usually, and then you can kind of do anything you want, I would say. And then the only other piece of advice would be, rehearse a lot. Just practice a ton, because it's such a bad feeling and such a confidence loss when you go play a show and you just suck. I mean, sometimes even when you're good, you're going to not have a good show. That can't be helped, but it just like, you know, if you're really rehearsed, and then it will just help you have a good show. You'll feel good afterwards. You want to do it again. That would be, my advice for sure.
Okay. Have you done an interview with Nardwar?
No, I haven't.
Why
Oh, man,
not?
we just haven't. Never done an interview with him. I'd love to.
You gotta send out the email.
I know, but Nard's he's like, you want him to want to interview you, you know, but he did an interview with Boy Genius a little while ago, and he was like, oh, and from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, Peach Pit, and he brought us up in an interview, so I know he knows we exist, and I met him before. I really want to get interviewed by him though.
Oh, you met him?
Oh yeah, he lives in Vancouver, so I see him
true.
sometime at shows, and I've met him before.
You haven't hinted?
I mean, he's the legend. I don't want to bother him. I'm sure every band tells him they want to get interviewed by him, but he is the bomb, and definitely a big inspiration. And man, I've spent hours and hours watching his interviews, just streaming about the day. I get him to like tell me something crazy I didn't even know about myself, but he's the best.
Yeah, you should start dropping hints next time.
I know, next time I'll see him.
Yeah, we just have a lot of free time.
Yeah, really free right now. Nothing going on.
New album coming
out. Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh, definitely.
Yeah, I hope you get that interview.
Yes,
really
me too.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we got interviewed by Hannah. That's pretty darn good.
I think that's all my main questions.
Okay.
But thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. You're so welcome. Thanks for talking to me. Awesome.
Yeah.
Right on. Cool.